What is going on, everybody? Happy Saturday. Welcome back to another episode of Comic Collector Origins. My name is Justin, aka No Good Comics, and welcome back to the channel. We are here for episode 50 of Comic Collector Origins, which is awesome. It's a milestone for me as I think it's been a little over a year that I've actually been starting this show, and there were a couple little breaks in between. But episode 50, that's a big number to me, and so I'm really excited to just continue this journey. I talk about it all the time. This has been just an incredible experience to be able to meet people and get to know individuals, how they got started with this hobby. If you're not familiar with this show, this is in fact all about the community. So I bring on members from the comic book community, ask them questions about their origin story with this hobby and their first appearances with things like local comic shops and comic cons and things like that. So it's just been a lot of fun. So I appreciate everybody who's constantly been there for me, the support and sharing things over on Instagram, promoting the show, week in and week out. I really do appreciate all the support and the love and the friendships that I've made. So with that being said, make sure you hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Thanks again for swinging by. If you're catching this replay right now, thanks for taking the time to do so. So I am really excited to bring on my guest here today because it's somebody who I feel like I've met fairly recently, maybe over the course of the past 4 or 5 months. And it's somebody who does a lot in the community themselves. They have a whole show that they do over on YouTube. They're also very active over on Instagram as well. And I am talking about Mr. Cole from the TheComicBurrito. So I know TheComicBurrito technically has a crew of individuals, but Cole is the one that I've been talking to for a while now and just getting to know. And he's been a really great supporter of the channel and also just a supporter of everybody in the community. So I'm really excited to get to know a little bit more about him. I know we've talked about some things in the past, like he's helped me with some DC knowledge when I had questions with Robin, and we talked a little bit about whiskey. So we'll maybe dive into some of that as well when we get towards the rapid fire questions. But let me bring Cole in right now. Cole, what's going on, brother?
Hello, welcome, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Thanks for taking the time to hang out with me today. And I have to say, I love the photo that you sent me. I wish that more of my guests would send me fun photos like that. It's great.
Yeah, it's funny. We used to have if you buy any of our merch, you can design your own color. And Comic Book Poser, one of the guys that's in this community, he actually made one like this, and I just copied his shirt because I thought it would be funny. So that was just me taking a random selfie, and I promised to send you a picture. I completely spaced it, and I was like, well, this one's at least funny. I'll send it over, and it'll at least, because all the other pictures I have are like me and my daughter, which seems a little less relevant for a picture about talking about comic books.
No, that's great. It's great. Again, thank you so much for taking some time to hang out with me here today. Definitely looking forward to diving into some of the topics, some questions that I had sent you from earlier. Let's see. Before we get into it, I do want to say hello to the chat here. So let's just say a quick hello. I'll scroll back to the top here. We got Stephen Hayner hanging out with us. What's going on, Stephen? Says he's going to watch the rewind, but just wanted to swing by, support the crew. Appreciate you, man. Thanks so much. We got Brandon in the house, Comics King, Station brother. Good to see you as well. Thanks for dropping the link.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say, TheComicBurrito, put the information in the description below as well, and also on Instagram. So make sure if you guys are not already following Cole and the crew, then please do so. We got Jennifer in the house. Comics will break your heart. Hello, Jennifer. Thanks for stopping by. We also got my man Ragin, Cajun Comics. What's going on, Ragin? Thanks for swinging by as well. We got my brother Michael in the house, Sove Collector. Happy Saturday indeed. Thanks so much, man. We got Sith Lordley in the house as well, representing SpineTicks. Always a pleasure to see you, my friend. Thanks so much for hanging out. Let's see. Cole doing double duty here. I love it.
Yeah.
We got my man Mercy Collectibles in the house all the way from Sweden. Thanks for hanging out with us as well. Always good to see you, Mercy. Let's see. I scrolling through. We got DJ Links in the house. What's going on, bro? Good to see you as well. I still have your package, and I apologize. It's literally packed up and ready to go, and I just have not put a label on it yet. But good to see you, man. I appreciate you swinging back and saying hello. All right, I think I'm caught up at the moment. If you guys have questions for Cole, please leave them in the chat there, or if you're watching the replay, you want to throw them in the comment section. Appreciate that as well. Again, make sure you're following Cole over on Instagram and YouTube, TheComicBurrito. You guys have a lot of great things going on over there, and I'm sure we'll dive into some of that along the way. But Let's dive into it, man. I'm going to start just with the typical question that I kick this off with every time, and that's when did this hobby start for you? What did your environment look like, and how old were you at the time?
Yeah, so I've kind of gotten back into comics like 3 different times.
Nice.
The first time I was just, I want to say I was in like 3rd grade. I didn't really like to read. I wasn't reading very good, but I loved like the Nickelodeon cartoons that were on. And my brother was into comics. And I remember my mom, like, because he was 5 years older than me, my mom brought him in and she saw that they had the Ren and Stimpy comics, which was like my favorite thing. So this is actually the first comic I ever remember buying.
Very cool. Wow.
And then I bought that and this one, but this is not the one that I bought because Comic Book Poser, who I kind of mentioned earlier to you, he sent me a Bob Camp signed version of this because this was also one of the first ones. So I got him because of that. It just, it made me start reading a little bit more. I didn't really get into them. I have, some Ren and Stimpy comics. I think I have a Powerpuff Girl comic and some random like Dragon Ball comics that I got just because they were TV shows that I watched. So it's funny because even my first start, I didn't even really get into the superhero stuff. And then later on, I started playing a game called Hero Clicks, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Yeah. And that led me to like, after playing that game, I was like, maybe I should read some of the stories about some of these characters. Yeah. So I just remember going to my library and being like, let's see if they've got graphic novels. They do. I checked some out, started reading them. And that was right before New 52 came in. So I remember going to a shop and grabbing like Court of Owls #1, 2, 3, and 4 right off the shelf, being like, I guess I'll start reading this Batman because this seems new. What a good time to start reading Batman, right?
Yeah, seriously.
And then I kind of got out of it just because, working. I didn't have a shop that I liked. And then I started reading books again, like just novels. And I was doing a book club on Reddit and they were like, let's do graphic novels. And I fell in love with them again. And so I was looking for a comic book shop and one opened like a mile from my house. It was opening in like 2 months. So I sent him a pull list and I was like, let's figure this out. And that was in 2015. And I've pretty much been like pedal to the metal since then.
Oh, wow. Okay. So since 2015 is kind of when you step back in on a more serious level of collecting and reading. Very cool. And that can be dangerous having an LCS literally a mile down the street.
Yeah, it's nice when I'm coming home from work because I can just quick stop in there and it's not like it doesn't add time. But yeah, on a Saturday when it's just like, oh, maybe all these people are posting this picture. Maybe I should go in and get that issue of that book that I passed on.
Right. I could totally see that, man. Even just to kill some time, you're just like, oh, I'll swing by on my way out or something. That's very cool though, man. And I think, you're not alone there when it, I've talked with a lot of people who mention kind of the idea of going in and out of this hobby, as they've grown up and obviously life happens, and a lot of things are going on throughout life. So it's cool that, 2015 is still, I feel like most people I've talked to, they've kind of returned back to this hobby like 2018-ish, 2017, 2018, 2019, or the pandemic, like right during the pandemic. So, I would consider you more of an OG in that sense when it comes to, diving into a lot of these stories and stuff like that. How long have you been on Instagram? It's really a combined question. I'll start with that. How long was it when you like got into the social media aspect of the hobby? And, did you know that there was a community out there, or was that something that you stumbled upon as you went into things? Or
yeah, so so before I started like doing Comic Burrito with Todd and Nick, I was just kind of reading comics. We actually started this like 2 years ago yesterday. Nick got a Facebook like reminder because we started a Facebook reading club. So it was just like every month we're going to read a trade, and then it just molded into this over time. Oh, wow. But before that, I had a blog that I was kind of in and out of, just like not really that serious, but I liked comics and I didn't have people to talk to comics about. So kind of like, a lot of people are coming onto YouTube and just screaming into a camera. I was just writing a little bit, and then I'd post it and go away. So I kind of mess with Instagram on my personal account a little bit, doing that stuff. But about a year ago, I think I started working more on getting our Instagram good. I know just talking to people in the community, like we're fairly big on Twitter, a lot more so, but a lot of the people in the YouTube community focus on Instagram more. So I was like, well, let's get into there. I can kind of manage that. I'll put some pictures up, and it's helped because I've met people like you, or you'll just post a picture and it's like, honestly, like, how did you feel about this? Because I liked it, you seem to like it, but a lot of other people hated it. And that's where I kind of, what I like about that. And just, finding other people that, are like-minded and have the same kind of thoughts that I do. It's fun to see when they disagree with me on a book, because we can't all like the same stuff, I think.
Of course. No, you're right. And that's some of the best parts of the hobby, I think, is, as you're saying, just being able to mingle with others and discuss basically the very thing you read, and, get some other opinions out there. So that's one of my personal favorite parts of this whole hobby. I wanted to say a quick hello to a couple other people that came in. I see Off-White Tim hanging out with us. He was my guest from last week. So good to see you, Tim. Thanks for hanging out. We got my man Perry Comics also in the house. What's going on, Perry? Good afternoon. We got my brother Fable Station, bro. Good to see you. PCP Army in the house. We got Kirk in the house as well. Comics on the Mind. Love this guy, man. Kirk is all over the place lately. Good to see you, Kirk. Thanks for hanging out with us as well. Let's see. We got, I saw John Thomas in the house. JT, good to see you. Thanks so much for hanging out. You guys make sure to hit that thumbs up. Make sure you're subbed up to Comic Burrito and following them over on Instagram as well. Put the information in the description below. So I wanted to ask you a little bit more about, how Comic Burrito came to be, you, Todd, and Nick. I mean, this has been like because when I was first starting to talk with you, I wasn't I actually wasn't sure who I was talking to, because I knew it was the three of you. And then like I saw someone post a video, maybe it was on Twitter or I don't remember. Everything was on Twitter, because then I reached out to you on Instagram about that on Twitter. Or maybe it was YouTube, actually, now I think about it. He was showing off books, and you're like, oh, are you mean this person or this person? He's like, you're like, I do this. So how does that all work? Like, let the community know, like, it's the three of you, right? Or is there anyone else that we're missing?
Yeah. So we got me, I'm Cole. We've got Todd, and we've got Nick. Todd does a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. So in the early days, if you go back to our first video, I guess here, I'll get into how we started first and then get to that. So we've been doing this comic book reading club. It kind of fizzled out. We had a few people. I know that Steve Hayner was one of the first people that chatted. He was one of the first original members of that. And it kind of fizzled out because we didn't really push it as much. And then one day, Todd was just like, you guys want to do a podcast? And I was like, yes. And he's like, I've got all the stuff. Let's do it. And then the day before we went there, he was like, okay, so change of plans. I have really nice camera gear. We're going to do a YouTube show. And it was funny because Nick was talking about with anxiety. He was like, I don't know if I want to be a part of this anymore. And it's like, it's okay. We'll just figure it out. So we got together at Todd's twice. And we did it. And it's funny because our last time we got together, all sitting in Todd's basement, we were reviewing Mr. Miracle, which if you haven't read Tom King's Mr. Miracle, it's one of my favorite books. I would highly recommend it. But there's a veggie tray. He brings in this veggie tray to Darkseid, which is hilarious. And Darkseid double dips a carrot. So we're talking about that. This is 2 days before our city shuts down for COVID, and we're double dipping carrots in a veggie tray and talking while eating, which maybe doesn't age well, but it's still kind of a funny thing. But then when that happened, it's well, we all kind of I was like, I have a webcam, and Nick didn't, but I was like, I have an extra one just because I work in IT, so I just gather some stuff. It's it's not as good, but you can have it. And we kind of transitioned to doing live streams. We'd still do some recorded stuff, and now we just kind of focus on that. But as to our roles, Todd does all of our graphics. He's the mastermind to everything of that. He does, he's great at that. When we originally did it, he would do a lot of our original editing. If you see something that's edited very good, it's most likely done by Todd. I'll cut and, if I do something in my basement, so he doesn't have to do it, I can cut some stuff and make an edited video that's fine. But I've kind of taken the role of Instagram, and Nick handles our Twitter, and we just kind of separate duties, which, is really funny because I look at people like you who are by yourself, it must be such a struggle to try and manage all of these platforms,
juggling all these things,
edit all this stuff. I mean, on the other benefit you have, though, is that you don't have to have 3 people available to do some stuff sometimes. It kind of, you work on your own schedule. We just have to set times to do stuff. But we've kind of done the divide and conquer route so that it minimizes everyone's workload, but we all still have fun and enjoy what we're doing.
That's good. Yeah. Because you don't want to get overloaded. That certainly can kind of ruin it for you. Or I always say, if the minute I feel like I'm working, like, or that it feels like work is the minute I need to kind of step back and reassess on certain things with anything, it goes with anything. I see my man Jason here claiming comics. He's just swinging by. He said he's out, but he'll watch the rewind. Thank you so much, Jason. I also see Brother Joe, Station Brother Joe. Thanks for stopping in, man. Let's see. Ignacio in the house. What's going on? Thanks for stopping in. Hello. All right. So yeah, so it's cool to see how this is kind of developed for you guys. And I was just looking at your channel again earlier. I see you guys are almost at that 700 mark for subscribers, which is really cool. What you created the channel a year ago, 2 years ago, or when was it that you actually created the channel?
So February 13th was the first day I think we sat down and all like did a video together. And I think we released it like the following Monday or something like that.
This year?
No, of 2019.
2019.
No, 2020. Okay. Sorry, 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So we've been doing it a little over a year now.
Nice.
Yeah. It's been fun. I mean, we just try to, we do things like a little bit different. We try to, like, most of our content is all live stream, and most of them don't go, like, are over an hour. So we're not really pushing to formats, but we do something we enjoy doing. And I think that's really the fun of, the hobby, right? It's doing it until you enjoy it. So as long as we're not trying to push content that we don't want to do to just, try and hit marks, we've gotten some fans and met people in the community that we have a lot of time and fun talking to. So
yeah, no, very true. I see climbing comics in the house. I always get climbing comics and claiming comics mixed up. Alan, good to see you, man. That's why I like to just stick with names, like real names. Then it's just like, I can't mix that up. So,
but then when you have like ComicBurrito show up, you're like, I don't know which one it is.
Yeah. I'm from now on just gonna assume I'm talking to you, and the other guys are just gonna have to correct me if that's
for the most part. I usually do jump in on the main handle, and I think Nick and Todd both use their own personal for a lot of the stuff, so I can maybe clear that stuff up too.
Yeah,
but yeah. And one of the funny things we do is for our like year-end awards, we did them in February because that's when we were a year. So we just kind of do it then, because then everyone else is doing theirs in December.
Right.
Just wait a little bit longer, and that way we can see other people's lists and be like, oh yeah, maybe I would have forgotten that book.
Right. That's cool. That's smart, man. I like that. Those are always fun too, by the way, picking out those books. So a little bit more about you. Like, where do you stand with, like, the characters that you're reading, or I know you talked about a lot of non-superhero related comics in the very beginning. And then it wasn't until you got into other things that introduced you to these superheroes. But, are you, you more of a Marvel guy, more of a DC guy, or are you sticking with indies? Like, where do you stand with all that?
I mean, if you had to make me pick just one thing, it would be indies. Like, I love indies. We, like, our show mostly always is indies, but like between the big two, I'm a very big DC fan. I try and read some Marvel. I mean, throughout the years, I obviously have missed some great stuff like Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil, but like, I try and read, like, I've been sticking to Immortal Hulk since that's the entire run
coming out. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people really don't like this book, but I really like the Champions. I like the whole group of them. I know that sometimes the arcs aren't great, but I'll still keep on that book. I've pretty much, since they came out with the new Champions team, I think I've pulled every single issue just because I like the team as a whole, and new things are interesting to me. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's indies. I read any indies you give me, I'll probably read. And, that's kind of where it is. I remember too, like, the first thing, because one of the first books I kind of grabbed off the shelf, and I really remember being like, oh my gosh, this is what comics can be, is, I don't know if you've read Black Hammer. It's a Jeff Lemire Dark Horse book. Yeah. And it's a whole universe in itself of superheroes. It's kind of takes shots at they copy Golden Age superheroes. Right. And that was just kind of like, this is like slice of life, but it's also superheroes. And I mean, there's other great superhero stories that have done that. Mr. Miracle that I referenced earlier does that. Matt Fraction's Hawkeye is one of those where it's like, I think even if you don't like superhero books, everyone needs to read Matt Fraction's Hawkeye, because that's an incredible book.
I've heard very good things about that. Yeah, and I had a couple of friends who recently just told me, well, John's Comics with Kids I have to give credit to first, because he's been probably yelling at me earliest on getting onto that Jeff Lemire Black Hammer series. But also Abby and Victoria, they also been talking to me about it more recently, just suggesting that book. And I'm a big Lemire fan, so it's really just trying to balance the time on what Lemire book I'm going to read next, because I'm a big Descender fan. I love Descender, love Gideon Falls. So certainly want to go back and catch up in that whole series. I know there's a lot of like things that branch off now, right? From Black Hammer, there's like some side series that are out now.
Yep. Yeah. So there's, I mean, the main team is like, 4 or 5 people.
Okay.
And then it just kind of hits these side stories. So pretty much what he's doing is Black Hammer is very similar to Hellboy, where there's just all these side stories of characters, he's just building this universe. Like currently right now, there's 2 Black Hammer books coming out.
Oh, wow.
Like mostly at all times, there's 1 or 2 Black Hammer books always coming out.
Yeah.
And like the 2 now are like, well, there's Black Hammer Visions, which is really cool because it's the first time Jeff Lemire let other people write books.
That's what I noticed, was a different writer on that.
Yeah, so like Chip Zdarsky did one. He has, I know Jeff Johns did one. Marika Tamaki did one. Patton Oswalt did the first one, which might be the best issue too. Like I've not read very much of his stuff, but it's funny. I have the library edition, and Patton Oswalt did one of the quotes for the original library edition, which is like hilarious because he apparently is such a big fan that him and Jeff Lemire must have talked and was like, "You want to do a story in these visions?" So
that's cool. Very cool. Quick hello in the chat here. I see Eric Azor's Tiger hanging out with us. What's going on, Eric? Thanks for stopping in. We also got Black Crown Comics in the house. Good to see you, Black Crown. See, I think I caught up with everybody there. Appreciate everybody hanging out. We got 15 people in the chat right now. If you guys are not following Cole and Comic Burrito, make sure you do. I put all the information in the description below. I'm also going to take a moment to note here that for anyone in the chat right now, if you are able to hang out throughout this entire thing to the end of this, since this is episode 50 and kind of a special milestone for me, I'm going to do a giveaway here at the end of this episode. So stick around for that. I will ask a trivia question that's based on one of the episodes from this particular series of Comic Collector Origins. If you get it right, then we'll go over all the stuff. Another cool thing, Cole is also going to give something out as well. So and again, I appreciate you, Cole, for doing that. So we'll show the details and it'll be fun. So if anybody's still here, hang out or hang out with us and maybe you'll get something at the end here. I see Chop and Drop 2013. What's going on, Chop and Drop? I like that name, Chop and Drop. So I wanted to ask you too a little bit about your experience with Comic Cons. Are you a big Comic Con goer, or have you ever been to one? And if you have, do you remember your first one, or how old you were when you went? Yeah,
I've been to, I think 3, and they're all very different. So the first Comic Con I ever went to, and actually I've went to this one twice. So we have one in our local city. I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan. If you know, it's pretty much 2.5 hours from Detroit, 3-ish hours from Chicago, and it's the 52nd biggest state metro-wise, or city metro-wise in the United States. It's not great, but it's it's big enough. But they have one where usually there's like one big guy, and yeah, Kevin Eastman has came. Gail Simone's been there. This year we have Peter Tomasi is going to be there. So I mean, they usually get 1 or 2 big people, and that one's really fun for a first con. It was great because it's a little bit smaller, but they also have like celebrities too. Like they've gotten Lando came. The girl that does the voice of Mercy, if you play Overwatch, was there. And yeah, so I mean, it's fairly small. And it's really good for somebody like me that might want to like bin dive, because there's a lot of dollar books. There's a lot of $2 books where you can maybe find some stuff that's, if you get it at a shop or on eBay, you're going to pay $5 to $20 on. So I really liked like that style one for that. The second con I went to was C2E2, which is I think like the third biggest con. And I went in 2018. That was like an all-star lineup. I mean, you had Tom King, Clay Mann was there, Joelle Jones was there, Brian Michael Bendis. This was so crazy because this was the Bendis is Coming event. And they didn't even have a single book that Bendis wrote for DC yet. But Bendis had a full signing at the DC booth, and everyone's bringing Marvel books there, which I thought was hilarious. Like, you should have made a C2E2 Superman. And like released it like a month early, let the people there get it. Just so they can go. I mean, the only thing is like, there's so many people, and then there's other people like, like all these indie guys. Like I remember Jason Aaron was there, Scotty Young. I mean, Jason Aaron's not indie, but he is, because that's, I ended up buying Southern Bastards first hardcover, and he just wrote in my book, like Roll Damn Tide. And I was
man, that's awesome.
I was like, as a Michigan State football team, I've watched Alabama roll Michigan State twice, and it's not fun. So thanks for that, Jason Aaron.
Right. That's a wild book, by the way.
I even met Daniel Warren Johnson before I even knew who he was. Like he's just sitting there like drawing. I was like, you draw really good. Like I bought this #1 of your book so I could have you sign it. Thank you.
Yeah. Man, C2E2, man, it's on my list.
It's awesome. I mean, it's in Chicago, which is kind of scary. I mean, it's huge and it can be stressful if you have like anxiety. I assume that it's not the greatest place, but they have like the Image Skybound booth. And I remember every time you bought anything from there, they just give out a #1 of Oblivion Song was the big book. And all the ones they gave out were the pink signature variant of that book, which was selling for like $40 at the time.
Yeah.
I ended up getting like 4 of them for free just from going back and buying stuff. Never sold it, and now it's not worth anything anymore. So, but you know,
that happens.
And then the final one about a year. My daughter was 6 months old, and she turns 3 in August. We went to just a Comic-Con in a gym in a small city, like outside of Metro Grand Rapids, and you know, everything was probably more expensive than it should have been when I was bin diving. But hey, my daughter got to dress up like Batgirl, and that was fun.
Yeah, nice. Sometimes those small ones are nice, especially depending on who's going. If it's an earlier, you know, experience for them, it's not as intimidating as some of those, you know, some of those bigger Comic-Cons. So we have a couple of those, like a smaller, I would call them vendor get-togethers almost nowadays. Some of the real local ones that I have here, but there's like one traveling one here in Jersey that they do, like I think they do like 1 in New York and then like 3 in Jersey. But it's basically like a bunch of the vendors that I almost like know by now just from seeing them on Instagram and, you know, going there. But it is a nice way to, like, you know, take that time to just go, you know, bin diving if you want. No celebrities or anything like that, but I do enjoy those big ones too. Have you ever been to the East Coast, like any of the East Coast, or I guess those are the 3 that you were mentioning, right?
Yeah. I thought about going to like San Diego, might be a fun one, but also I don't know, I guess that's like, I'm more too like when I go to a Comic-Con, I kind of want to just meet like creators and talk to creators and get like this, you know, talk to them. So like, I don't know, C2E2 is kind of perfect because my sister-in-law lives in Chicago, so if I go, I have a place to crash, which definitely saves a ton of money. And I mean, it's a good one and it's big. You know, I've thought about New York. I know Baltimore is one that a lot of people talk about being pretty cool. It's a good one too. But you know, when it comes to it now, that one's easy and it kind of makes sense too, just by location.
Sure. Yeah, no, that does make sense. I can't wait to start going to more cons. I know that they're opening up again, and you know, a lot of them are on schedule now to some degree anyways. I'm going my first, well, I've been to one small one, but I'm going to a bigger one this end of this month here, 2 weeks actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
Over in Connecticut. Yeah, Terrificon, which I think it's going to be pretty good. From what I know, a lot of people are going to be there from the community, which is going to be cool. So I think it's just going to be a massive hangout, which is cool. So let's see. I saw Michael saying, speaking of cons, just ordered my No Good Comics shirt. Oh, dude, Mike, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Man, I appreciate that, man. So I want so all right, so that's a little bit about the Comic-Cons. I'm always curious about that. I wanted to ask you, what are some books that you're reading right now? You have anything that stands out to you as some personal favorites that maybe you would recommend to somebody that might be looking for something to read?
So there's a book that ended like 2 months ago, maybe. It's called Dead Dog's Bite. It is a Dark Horse book. It is written by Tyler Boss, and he also does the art. For anyone that read 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank, he does the art on that book. There's a good chance that that's going to be my book of the year already this year. I mean, it's perfect for me. I'm a huge Twin Peaks fan. I'm not sure if you've seen the like late 80s, early 90s show Twin Peaks. It's very like cult classic-y. A lot of people don't like it. It's kind of a sitcom, or it's a sitcom mixed with a soap opera and a murder mystery thing. It's weird, and I really like it. And this book is the closest thing I've gotten to that. So I would say if you're into Twin Peaks, I would highly recommend getting that. I think the original tagline was it was like, this is a mystery wrapped in enigma, wrapped in a candy wrapper or something like that. But I love that book. I mean, I'm really liking, I'm a huge Batman fan. I think that the run that Marika Tamaki is doing on Detective Comics is fantastic. I mean, it's easily been, to me, some of the best Batman that's been written in the last 2 years. I mean, I read a lot of indie stuff. A lot of the Black Caravan stuff that's coming out. From Scout. I've been a big fan of a lot of that stuff. I'm trying to think. It's so hard when coming up. This is like the one thing.
Yeah. I wanted to mention too. I know one of the first things that we had talked about. I left a comment on one of your on your YouTube channel once, and that's I think how we kind of got in a conversation where we were talking about Robin, and I didn't know about a certain something that you guys were referring to, and you guys you weren't putting any spoilers out there, and we don't have to here either. But it definitely was helpful to me to understand a little bit more of like what you guys were talked about later seemed to be obvious, like, oh, like, if you knew about this, you knew about, oh,
I've been having a lot of fun with this, the Skybound X.
Oh,
it's
nice.
like Rick Grimes with a lightsaber. I mean, I love the book Die, but I also play a lot of D&D or have played D&D and Dungeon Mastered. So like, that's one of those books too, that I think is kind of more of a niche one. I mean, I love everything Bad Idea has been doing. Like, I get it. People hate Bad Idea because the way that they do stuff is different. They make a better product. Like, no matter what you want to say, if you don't like the comic books at all, like their comic quality for the amount of money you pay is like ridiculously good. I mean, Matt Kent is one of my favorites. I loved ENIAC. I loved Fear Case that he did. I really even liked Crimson Flower, which a lot less people really liked. It's not really an indie, but it's an indie. I like The Nice House on the Lake. I think that this is maybe going to be one of JT4's best books.
I love that.
Those are I just kind of have like my stuff that needs to be sorted. So
no, it's great.
Help me find
and when you mentioned Die, that's perfect timing because I know John's Comics with Kid. He is a diehard fan of Die, I should say. And he's talked about it a lot.
Yeah, Kieran Gillen is one of those guys that's so like crazy because he has a book like Die that's super high fantasy, super like you almost feel like you need to take notes to understand what's happening in that book. But then he takes another book like Once and Future that is like also high fantasy, but it's just pretty much an action romp that you need no notes. It's just fun, and it's got some of the most beautiful colors you'll ever see in a comic book. So good that Tamara Bonvillain is a Golden Burrito Award winner.
Oh, boom. There you go. I love it.
That's what we call the end of our year awards.
Yeah. I dig it. John also mentions Aftershock and Boom and Image. They've all been so great the last few years. Yeah, I feel like this has certainly been more of like the rise of the indies, from the amount of the experience that I have in reading comics. I feel like there's just been so many great ones. You mentioned earlier with Twin Peaks. I wanted to share that so my dad, he was always obsessed with Twin Peaks, and I never explored it, never really explored it. And one time, I think like probably 3 years, you know how they like redid or they came out with more Twin Peaks, like it was like the newer I don't know if it was like a show, right? It was like still
it was on Showtime,
right? So I guess it was right when the finale was coming out of that show. My girlfriend and I were going to stay over at his place down in Baltimore for the weekend, and it was like first time my girl. I think it was one of my first times that my girlfriend was meeting my dad, and it was like this family thing, and he was like so excited to watch this. He's like, "Do you guys mind if I just take a moment and watch this show, even though you're here?" Like, and we're like, "Yeah, no." He's like, "You guys should watch it." We're like, "Are you sure?" Like, he's like, "Yeah, I'll just kind of we'll watch it together, and I'll just kind of catch you up on things as we go." I'm like, all right, yeah, we'll give it a go. And of course, we were like, whoa, like, what are we watching here? This entire thing. He was loving every minute of it, though. So it's interesting because I've heard other people talk about that book that you mentioned. What's the name of it?
Dead Dog's Bite.
Dead Dog's Bite. Yeah. So I did pick up issue 1, just haven't read it. I didn't realize it ended.
Yeah, it's only 4 issues.
4 issues. Okay.
And it was one of those books too, where I was like, issue 3, I was like, how are they going to wrap this up? And how is it going to be good? And it was good. Like, I don't know. It's so weird. Like, cause that's for me, I read a lot of like reading indies. You do get a lot of those like 4 or 5 issue arcs. Yeah. And I would always say some of the hardest things I think is to have a book that can only be 4 or 5 issues and end fantastically.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's tough to do. That's very tough to do. That's what I'm excited for the lot. I know that's 4 issues. So yeah. We'll see how that goes. I see John Thomas saying, I want the lot so badly now. Sorry, man. We're hyping it up here. Sorry. Yeah, that like you said, with Bad Idea, that is the one like frustrating side of things is the, the fact that it is difficult for certain people, depending where you live, to necessarily get your hands on the book without, spending a fortune to get it. Yeah. But we'll see what they do.
I set up a pull list at a secondary shop. Okay. 2 shops have Bad Idea in our city, just so that one of my friends, the closest place he can go to is an hour and a half. So I was like, I'll just wait until I get most of them and ship them all to you. Like once I can fill up like a Gemini, I'll just ship you like 8 of them.
That's good. That's a good idea. Yeah, it's I'm lucky. My LCS recently was a new shop that got accepted into their system or however it works. So luckily it was now it's a little easier for me. But yeah, the quality's been great. And I don't read many physical books. I know that I read a lot of digital stuff. And I was like, let me just go buy this on Comixology. And I'm like, nope, bad idea. Is nowhere to be seen on Comixology.
Yeah, they don't have any digital. Like I've seen, like, I wonder if they even give like review copies to people. I mean, if you're not selling a digital copy, I doubt that you would make one to like give people to review. And I don't know, they've tried to keep things so hush that it seems like unlikely that they probably would do that. So
yeah, it's very, very tight there. John says he agrees with you. So hard for comics to end well. It's always been a medium designed to be never ending. Yeah, it's true. It is nice though when it's pulled off right. That's for sure. Fable, what is this, man? Blame the mayor. I don't know what you're talking about, bro. This was Cole hyping that book up, not me, man. I was just agreeing with him. So who else? I just saw another name. Did I miss somebody here? Appreciate everybody hanging out. We got 12 people hanging with us still. Comic Journey, there he is. What's going on, Comic Journey? Good to see you. He says, yeah, he's a pull list, 2 shops, very similar reasons. Yeah, it's a good idea, especially for books like that are harder to find. So talking about books here still, do you have a couple books that mean something special to you that you want to show off here?
Yeah. So I kind of showed off the original 2 of these Ren and Stimpies that I brought aside, but another buddy or a guy, I mean, I've talked about him a lot of times apparently today, so I must just really like him. Comic Book Poser, he sent me this as an AOK. So when my daughter was born, I read this entire series on the 2 weeks that I took off of work, and it's a mind management. It's a 9.2, but I don't really care about gradings. But not only is it signed by Matt Kent, but you can see, God, I hate the glare on this. Sorry. He did a little remark right in this corner here.
Oh yeah,
that little guy's head. It did come, he got it from like Mercari, so it's got a chip in it, but once again, it's not that important. I'm never going to get rid of this. Like maybe if C2E or if CGC comes to the Grand Rapids Comic-Con, I might give it to him to like re-slab it, but yeah, mind management. This is one of my all-time favorite stories. It's Matt Kent. He does everything on it. I know a lot of people aren't as into his art, but yeah, that's probably like the one book that I have that's cool, that like means the most to me, because that's kind of a book that like I've held a little bit more regards to, because I read it while I'm meeting my daughter for the first time and spending that week with her. That was like the book that I read in between her napping and waking up to, get her up. So
just those memories, man. That's really cool. I haven't read that book. I might have to put that on my list then.
Yeah, it's one of those where I think right now there's either 6 hardcovers that you can get, or there's 3 soft covers. It's great if you like espionage spy style stuff. It's it's got some superhero elements because all of the main people are very like they have like, they're kind of the secret group in the government. So one guy's like super strong, right? So that's kind of super powery. One guy can like change reality with his mind and stuff like that. So I mean, there's a lot of those like elements, but it's more like spy espionage. The main character kind of doesn't know what's going on the whole time. So I love it. I mean, if you're into that kind of book, I highly recommend it. And you might not like the art, but I would think that if you can get over it, it's really worth reading.
Nice. Very cool. I will definitely check it out. Then I'll add it to the list. It sounds cool. I'm always open to new stuff. I'm always trying to get into new indies. So, and Matt Kent has been great. So I really enjoy a lot of his work. So very cool there. With your collection that you've now collected over this period of time here, what is the big picture for you in terms of what you plan to do with your books someday as you get older? Are these books that you take to the grave with you? Do you eventually sell them? Do you pass them down to your kids? What do you think, at least as of right now, with where you stand? Where do you see yourself going with your collection?
Yeah, I'm definitely at a place right now where I think I have like 4,000 to 5,000 comics. So
wow.
I'm starting to cut it down. I'm trying to start
starting to cut it down.
Selling some stuff on eBay if I can, or just, I'll occasionally go up on Twitter if there's like a certain book that is like a more of an indie book that people probably aren't going to pay money for on eBay. Like, I'll just ship this to you guys if you cover shipping, give me a few bucks for the issues. But the one thing, I've still been kind of collecting some stuff. Like the one book that has kind of been my grail for forever has been Saga #1. I have a 5th printing. I'm still kicking myself because of that C2E2 I saw it graded 9.8 for like 200, and I was like, I don't think I want to spend 200 on this book, and now it's like a $500 book in that grade, which sucks, but I love that book so much. My daughter's name is Hazel, which is technically the main character of Saga.
Yeah, that's
I like
great.
sneak that in. My wife didn't know until after we did it, like, just to let you know that is a comic book character, and I might talk about that.
Oh, that's so great. Anybody here who's like, potentially about to have kids or planning to have kids, that and would like to, sneak something in like that, learn from Cole here, man. That's genius right there. That is genius.
Yeah. And I mean, but I've also been kind of, I know if you know Bearded Comic Bro, he's big in Batman. Him and I have both been kind of going on like my issue for, or my goal for quarantine, or like that first year was to try and get the 400 series of Batman. I did not succeed, but I have succeeded since. And I've just been slowly trying to collect that run. One of the biggest like wins I had was, it's like 2 months ago, walk into this shop in a beach town by us, pull out, like I'm looking through these bins, like he's just got 4 short boxes, 5 maybe, looking through them, and I pull out the Batman. I don't know the exact issue, but it's when Jason comes back as Red Hood.
Oh,
the one where he's like standing like that. It's like a $200 issue. Pull it out. No prices anywhere. I asked the guy what he's charging for it, and he's like, "Oh, it's cover price."
Wow.
And then I'm looking through again. I ended up finding the first Riri Williams, and the first Riri Williams wears a suit, which, as I kind of mentioned here, like earlier, I really like the Champions. I like that whole crew. I've been like loosely, I mean, Miles Morales' first appearance is probably going to be unobtainable for me, but I did buy a facsimile issue, so that's good enough for me. But I've been slowly trying to, if I can get some of their first appearances, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, very cool. Smart, man. Yeah, I see John talking about Saga 1. He said he goes, me too. Saga 1 just keeps going up. Love that one, and I'm watching for 1 too. Yeah, like they're certainly out there, but yeah, especially a 9.8 is probably it's definitely spiked up there at this point. But even if you get a lower grade, I think you could probably find one pretty reasonable.
And grades to me aren't super important. Like, it's just a book I'd like to have. Like if I could, if I end up finding a 9.8 in the wild and I get it for cheap, like I'm going to get it, ideally some point. There are some books in my collection that are probably worth some money that, hopefully my kids or wife, can do something with at some point in life to make big money. So
yeah. Let's see. So, John Thomas saying storage space is one of our hobby's greatest villains. Yeah, it's very true. I'm always running into that problem. I'm still in that problem right now. I'm still trying to figure out, ways to kind of, I don't know what I'm going to do with my collection, because that's why I cut back. That's why I do my three comics each week now, because physical books are just taking up so much room. So I have to be more specific about what means most to me to take up space in my room. It's tough. But and again, everybody who's here right now, thanks so much for hanging out. We got 15 people here. If you guys are not subbed up to Comic Burrito, make sure you do so. Put the information in the description below. Man, Michael just said he just passed 10K floppies. Wow.
Yeah, that seems so stressful for me.
Just had to open a second room. There you go. I mean, I've always given the advice that, if you run out of space, just buy a bigger house. I think that's probably the best advice I've ever given. So
yeah, I'm already thinking about doing that. So
yeah, there you go. Last question here before we get into like some of the rapid fire stuff. I like to ask my guests this every time, and that is, there are new people that are coming into this hobby every day. Big thanks to a lot of the films and TV shows that are coming out now that are focused around comic books. Do you have any advice for someone new to the comic book hobby, whether it's that they're reading or they're collecting for the first time, or they haven't even started that yet? Like, what would you give, or what comes to mind as a piece of advice that you would give to someone new?
One of the greatest pieces of advice that somebody gave me that I like to give everyone else is check your local library. Like the hardest thing, especially when you're talking to other community members, when people are like, this book's my favorite book, you should read it. Like there's a good chance you're not going to love all these books. And like, maybe like even some of the trades are hard to find. My local library, we have Hoopla, and they also have like a crazy selection of, they probably like, my library is like 10 branches, and I think my personal branch that I go to has probably like 4,000 to 5,000 trades, and they even get like for Saga, The Walking Dead, Batman, some of those other like really big books, they were buying single issues. So you could go there and check out, like I remember Nick was talking about when Tom King's Batman, he was trying to finish it, And I was like, you should, like, it was like the last five issues and they hadn't hit DCU yet. I was like, just go to the library. I'm pretty sure they have all of them.
Yeah.
And he ended up getting all 5 issues and just cranked through them. So it's like, I mean, you know, you've mentioned it. Reading digital, a lot of people hate, and I get it. I prefer to read a physical comic book, but like when you're checking new stuff out, you know, if you read it digital and you fall in love with it, maybe you go back and you buy a physical copy and then you can read that one forever. But sometimes, you know, like with Hoopla and all these other, there's so many easy ways to get free comic books that still, like, you know, a lot of people talk about like pirating comics, like, and people get mad about that. And I'm not saying do that, but like most writers will say, just go to a library. It's free. And they paid for that book. And hey, at least, you know, you're making the library system get movement, and maybe they'll buy more comics because more people are checking them out.
It's a great point. Yeah. I've had a few friends in the comic community here telling me about Hoopla, something that I still have not yet explored. I went as far as downloading the app and I just haven't gotten any further than that, but it does sound amazing. And especially for, yes, those, you know, books that are you know, have been iconic stories and things like that, things that you want to go back and read.
Yeah. Like in Hoopla 2 for image books, sometimes they get those like 10 issue things. So I only get 10 checkouts a month.
Oh, right. I heard about that. Yeah. Okay.
But like, you know, I know that if you know Chaos and Comics, he lives in Vegas. He gets 20 checkouts a month.
Oh, okay.
But so if you've ever, and then like Ryan he used to be New Guy, now he's Cosmic Gamfire.
Yeah.
He gets 2 checkouts a month. So it's kind of all over the place, but still, you know, like at the end of the day, 2 free checkouts is still, you know, if you're going to buy those on Comixology, that's, you know, $8 to $20 that you just saved. And they have anything from like most Boom books. They come out with the single issues the day that it comes out. They have pretty much every image book that I've tried to get is on there. They have a lot of DC, a lot of Marvel. You know, when you get into stuff like Vault or Aftershock, you know, some of the smaller ones, they might not have those, but there's still a ton of stuff. You know, but then like my shop, even like, or my library, you know, I've read books like, you know, from some smaller presses like Magnetic Press. Like I remember there was somebody on Instagram, I think it's Comic Chop News. He had mentioned the book Genderqueer, and I'd seen that a lot, and they were doing a review on that, and I ended up checking that out from there. So I mean, it's awesome how much you can really, if you just want to utilize the library, it's a good way to be able to read stuff and deal with some of the FOMO to at least see if you want to read it. Because, you know, sometimes I read books that I didn't love. So I'm like, I'm kind of glad that I waited to read this digitally, because now I don't have to try and sell these 5 issues that are going to be less than I paid for them.
Yeah, no, and I've certainly been there. So no, I think that's great advice. I saw John Thomas saying, "What you read in Vegas stays in Vegas."
Yeah,
no, great advice. You know, I think that certainly is something that even not even just newer readers, but older readers don't necessarily or may not have considered. You know, just going and checking out the local library. So really great advice there. I appreciate you for sharing that.
Yeah, and like I have this. It's a Kindle HD10. It is terrible. And it's not great, but if you only read comics on it, if you get it on like a special, it's $100, and it's way better than reading on your phone. I can tell you that. Yeah.
Just to get the size there. I remember you and I were talking a little bit about that. Asking, you know, I know you were trying to finagle your way into getting an iPad at some point, but yeah, anything works. I mean, anything's, you know, like you said, better than a cell phone. You know, I've talked to people who dismiss, you know, digital reading, and the majority of the fact is because they've only read it on a small cell phone, and I'm like, well, it is better when it's on a bigger screen of some sort. So I would also try to experience that if you could. But yeah, good stuff there. I see Steph is in the house here. Missing link station, brother. Thanks for stopping in. A reminder, before we get into the rapid fire questions, stick around. I am going to do a giveaway since this is my episode 50. So if you're here now, I am going to ask a trivia question, which whoever the first person answers that correctly will win something that we'll show off here in just a little bit, and we'll get into all that later. So again, thank you all for hanging out. Make sure you're following TheComicBurrito in the description below. I put all the information there. So all right, Cole, let's get into some of the fun rapid fire questions, like the super fast questions that I don't make super fast. Let's see. First one I'm going to start with is, and I have to throw you some curveballs here, but and we know that Batman's your favorite, but who is your favorite villain of all time?
Ooh, that's a good one. I was not even ready for that one. Man, and like this is a weird thing. I might go with somebody like, and it's a character that kind of turns, but like Prince Robot from Saga, like love that character because I hated him so much.
That makes sense.
Then like when it turns into like, hey, maybe he's not that bad of a person anymore, you're like, oh my God, this is good.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great. I mean, that's legit. There's a lot of those types of characters out there that were, once villains and kind of. I mean, I always think of Magneto because of where he is now, and he's always been one of my favorites. But great choice. I like it. I like it a lot. If you could have one superpower, what would that superpower be?
Man, teleportation, just because I hate commuting. And like, I visited my dad. He lives in the middle of nowhere, Missouri. It took 7.5 hours to drive, but I also have a 3-year-old. So we had to add like 2 to 3 more hours because every time we stop, she needs to get out and run around and do some stuff. So yeah, that would save on a lot of hassle of traveling.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, man. I love it. I love it. I see Chef RD's in the house. What's going on, Chef? He says Joker's his favorite villain. Very cool. Let's see. I want to go into. Let me bring my thing back up here. Who's your favorite writer, comic book writer of all time?
Jeff Lemire.
Yes. All right.
Jeff Lemire for sure. Matt Kent is way up there with him too. Like those two guys, like them, Tom King, Grant Morrison. There's a good chance I'm getting every book that they all put out. Yeah. So, I mean, there's plenty of other people that I love, but those are like the 4 that usually always gonna grab it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. I'm with you with Lemire, man, for sure. All of them. Everyone you named is great. What was the last comic book that you read?
Ooh, it was Freak Snow.
Issue 1.
It is from Behemoth. We're actually having Kevin, the writer of it, on our show tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I just went back and read that first issue. And since I've name dropped him so many times, Comic Book Poser actually gets his name on issue 2.
Hey,
of Happy Tanks.
Nice. That's awesome.
He just mentioned it. It's funny. I own this book. Didn't even say anything. He mentioned in our Discord, check it out. I'm on a book. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get you to sign that. And we're going to slab that because that'll be hilarious. Signed by the dude whose quote's on the front of the cover.
That's amazing. Very cool. That was a wild. I read issue 2 too, and that's a wild series. And it's one I will continue to read.
It's very it's one of those books where I could understand if somebody picks this up. This book is not made for everyone, but like visually, it's way different. Even like the storytelling is crazy because there's a lot of like inner head monologue, and I really enjoy it. But I also read a lot of weird stuff and like a lot of weird stuff. So
yeah. John Thomas says, eat anything and not gain weight, a superpower. Yeah, I mean, we could go with that.
That would be nice. But hopefully you get to lose weight first and then you get that.
Yeah, right. Egghead from 60s Batman, nice choice. We got super intelligence, that's another good one. Very cool. Let's see. Your favorite comic book based film of all time?
Man, there's probably 2, and I would probably say The Dark Knight, and then my second one would probably be Sin City.
Oh yeah, I like that. I actually just had my girlfriend watch that not too long ago
just because that was like one of those movies that I was like, I really like this movie, and then I was like, oh, this is also a comic book. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. Very cool. I see Michelle in the house. What's going on, Michelle? Super late. It's all good. Appreciate you swinging by. Let's see. Let's go into I like asking this question. If you could go back in time, literal time travel, and go buy one book off the shelf for cover price, one book that you had to keep and take with you to the grave, so you could never resell it or repurpose it in any way. But what would that one comic book be that you travel back to?
I'm going to definitely take the exact same answer that the Boyhood 7 did and say Detective Comics 27, because my answer to this normally would be, if like you didn't put the stipulation that you can't sell it, it would be Action Comics #1, so I could sell it, get a Detective Comics number 27, and then maybe also get a Saga #1.
Oh, I love the strategy.
But like this, that is the one book that I would probably want to have and be able to keep, forever, I guess. I mean, maybe I would say Batman 1, just because like I'm currently trying to collect that and I'll never actually get it, but in this scenario that will never happen, I'll go with the one that's worth more money.
Yeah, I like your strategy. If you were able to sell, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you could get a lot
Yeah.
of other things depending on what you wanted to spread the money to. So that's really cool. Good idea. I like it. All right, let's change gears here a little bit. I'm going to ask you a couple questions about yourself, some non-related, comic focused stuff. So one of the first is, what is your favorite just film of all time?
Man, that's really hard. I like a lot of stuff. I watch a lot of like cheesy B-list horror movies, but if I were to answer that in a serious way, I'd maybe say Gangs of New York. I love Daniel Day-Lewis. I love
Yes.
Leonardo DiCaprio. They're in the movie together. I've rewatched it and it doesn't age as well, but I still think it's great. I
Yeah.
also love The Inside Man. It is
Oh.
Clive Owen and it's a Spike Lee joint. I love that movie. He robs a bank and technically steals nothing.
Damn. Yeah. I haven't seen that one, but Gangs of New York, that's another one. Probably sometime last year, I had my girlfriend watch for the first time because she never saw it. So enjoyed it. But yeah, great choices. I like it. Are you, let's see. Are you a sports person? If you are, like, who are your favorite teams, and what's your favorite sport? Whoa.
This is just my water glasses are always like sports glasses that you get at
Oh, nice.
arenas. I really like college football is probably my favorite sport. I like Michigan State. I like, as a kid, I love basketball. So like they were really good in the 90s, so I kind of grew up with that. My family has been huge State fans for the entire life. I mean, I'm a Lions football fan. So, welcome to the garbage show. It's fine. I'll watch baseball. I've actually been to like 7 baseball stadiums just because
nice.
when you go to a city, you can probably see a baseball game. Whereas like other sports I don't really like baseball, but you can go into a stadium. Like I've been to Fenway. I've been to both the Chicago ones, so I've been to been to Fenway and Wrigley. So those are most 2 of the ones that people say you should go to. So I've been watching a lot of pro basketball lately. I like the Bucks right now just because they're relevant. Yeah. And, Giannis, it's fun to watch, and
totally.
So
the beast. Yeah. Great choice. I love that. You're kind of all over the place with sports. And I think college football, man, that is like, lately I've been trying every year, probably the past 3 years, I've been slowly trying to get more into it because I'm really big into the NFL stuff. But I like to know more about who these teams are going to be drafting, and when draft time comes around. And I always like to see. I mean, I feel like certain players certainly can just stand out in such a way that it is amazing. So and I also just feel like the college players play a lot harder.
Yeah.
So they're really hitting each other out there. So very cool. Let's see. I wanted to ask you a little bit about. Do you have a cool celebrity moment that you can refer to? Anyone you ever met before?
I don't know if I've met actual I've met a lot of decent comic book writers. Like I don't know if you've read Strange Adventures by Tom King.
Not yet. I actually read issue 1. I did read.
So in that issue 1, when Adam Strange is kind of like, I'm Adam, nice to meet you. When I met Tom King, that's exactly how he was. He was like, I'm Tom King, nice to meet you. Thanks for buying my comics. And I was like, I fell in love. I know a lot of people dislike what he does because he does stuff differently. But like in a genuine moment where this dude's gonna do 400 signings in the course of an hour right now. He took the time to shake me, a random dude's hand, and say, thank you for purchasing my comics. And my response was, well, thank you for writing them because I really like them.
I love it. I like Tom King. I know. Yeah. Like you're saying, I know it can be a sensitive topic for some people or how they feel about him, but I do like his work. Maybe more the miniseries stuff than anything else, but very cool. Very cool. What about, if you could travel anywhere in the world, you and your family for a 1-week vacation for free, where would you go?
I'd probably go to Japan. I don't know. I've been to a lot of Europe already, so I'd probably just skip that out. But Japan seems like a cool place. I like the cuisine there, and it would just be fun to see something completely different than what I'm normally used to. Also,
yeah. Cool. Very cool. I saw a Voice Inject in the house. What's going on, Voice Inject? John Thomas talking about Fenway. Michelle saying visiting baseball stadiums while traveling is so much fun. I agree. Like that. I mean, I would like to do more of that too. Once I get going back out again, that seems like it'd be a lot of fun. Michelle also talking about meeting Tom King was really cool. That is cool. Ragin. I've heard food is amazing in Japan. So I've heard. Let's see. Wanted to. Oh, let me go back here. Sorry, just clicked the wrong button. Next question I want to ask you is, are you a pets guy? And if you are, cats, dogs, anything?
Yeah. I have 2 cats. One, my wife's cat is a calico. Her name is Cairo. She is kind of sassy, but that's what she is. My cat is a black cat. His name is Batman. He was named Batman when we adopted him, and that's literally the only reason he got adopted. But he's kind of a problem child, but we still love him.
I love it. I love it. Where do you stand with music? What genre? What's your favorite genre? Do you have a favorite artist or band member?
I mean, I like I know a lot of people say this. I loosely will say that I listen to pretty much like all music, but like mostly the ones that I like repeatedly go back to is like indie rock or like hip hop. So currently, like my indie rock band that I'm listening to a lot of is like the Magnetic Fields. For hip hop, a lot of people hate this person too, but I love Chance the Rapper. Like, I don't know, I've just watched interviews like with him and just seeing a guy that's just like so into like being a dad and being like a family man, like in a genre that's not necessarily about that. I think it's pretty cool. And he's done a lot of cool stuff for the city of Chicago. One thing is, I know that you were talking about country. If you've read the book, That Texas Blood, Chris Condon does playlists for the first episode he had, or the first issue he had one, the next arc he had one, and he's put a new one out for the current arc. And
no way.
He does a lot of stuff that's like, you know, old school country, but he also mixes in like the White Stripes, sometimes just like music from movies. So if you have Spotify, they're all on Spotify. If you just look up C Condon, or if you have an issue, I think it has the little QR code on any of the issues. I love those playlists. Those are great dinner time playlists.
Very cool. So wow, so so I actually just got gifted that by my buddy Jason, who was here earlier claiming comics. Shout out to him. He actually sent me a little bit of an AOK with that the first trade of that. And I actually think I purchased the first issue or two from John when he was doing one of his claim sale comics, John's Comics with Kids. I haven't read it yet. Have not read it,
it's
but
fantastic.
I love it. I've heard really good things, and it's still going, right? I mean, that's not okay.
Yeah. The first issue of the second, well, it's technically the third arc, because the first issue is kind of a standalone thing. Then they had an arc, and then the second arc, full arc, came out. The first issue came out a few weeks ago.
Very cool.
And we had Chris Condon on our show, and the writer, and he is a very cool stand-up dude too. He's very into writing stories about location-based, which is kind of cool.
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, I gotta dive into Texas Blood, because it's definitely it's on my list. So I love when creators can have music that is like tied into the books too. Like I think about We Live, when you were talking about before. They had music to that. They had music within each issue going through where you would, you know, kind of like hinted like, hey, listen to this soundtrack while you looked at these 1 or 2 panels or pages or something like that. And it was really cool to kind of put you in that, you know, that movie vibe.
Yeah, and I think with We Live, it was more catered. You should listen to this while reading it, where That Texas Blood was just like, this is the music I listened to while I wrote.
Oh, okay, cool.
So it's more like this is the music that inspired me, but like, you know, they're
still cool.
Like he does put some random like soundtracks where it's just like, you know, the no words, just music, which is kind of cool. And you know, I don't know, I never listened to that kind of stuff, so yeah, it's nice to hear some different stuff, and it's all old stuff that I probably should have listened to. I just haven't.
We got Brandon Looney Tune fan in the house. What's going on, Brandon? Thanks for stopping in. All right, so I'm gonna one last question here for you, and I just always like to close it out with this. But two questions. Sorry. First one we'll talk about this is food, and I do normally like to close it out with this, but I will ask something else too. Food wise, Friday night. You know, it's just you and the wife. If you guys can order out or cook or go out to dinner, like what do you crave? What's your go-to meal usually, if you could just have anything of your choice for dinner on a Friday night?
Yeah, so if it's me picking out the food that we're having on Friday night, I'm probably going to get like Chinese food. I usually go with Mongolian beef or General Tso's chicken. But one of the things that we've kind of started as a family, now that I do have a daughter, is we do pizza night every Friday. So currently we've been just testing different pizza places around our area. But if I were to pick, I'd pick Chinese. Nice.
Well, I'm down with either. I do love me some pizza though. So if I'm ever in your area on a Friday night, I'm certainly going to be hitting you up.
Stop by, well, funny.
Yeah. All right. Last question that I want to ask you, and of course I have to, just because we've talked a little bit about this just off air. And so, what's your favorite whiskey of all time?
So I knew you were probably going to ask this, so I grabbed one, but I did
Yes.
grab a fancier than normal bourbon
Okay.
that I'm going to show off. But if I were to say like just like one in like that cheap kind of price range, I would say probably like Buffalo Trace or Eagle Rare. They're both kind of the same family. Buffalo Trace is $10 cheaper than Eagle Rare.
Okay.
But I also like Wild Turkey Rare Breed. But like if I had just one, I like this Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. This is one of my favorites. My dad, when he was in town, I gave it to him, the only crack that we've had, and he was mentioning it's so it's 118.2 proof, and he said, I can't believe it, but this might be one of the smoothest whiskeys I've ever had. Which is
Wow.
slightly dangerous, I guess. But you know, when you're drinking a whiskey like that, you make sure that you only have one, and then you kind of go to some of those other cooler
Yep.
ones to do so.
So true, man. I'm gonna have to try that, man. I'll add it to the list. Is it expensive? Is that a
This is about an $80 bottle. So yes,
okay?
this is
Yep.
slightly expensive.
Yep. Very nice. Very nice. Ragin here is asking, what's your favorite so far, pizza wise?
Well, if it's just me and my wife, our go-to toppings are sausage, jalapeno, and pineapple. A lot of people hate the pineapple on pizza,
that's a
but when you
curveball.
mix the jalapeno and the pineapple together, you get that sweet and spicy. They kind of add, and then you get the saltiness of the sausage. But I mean, I'm kind of basic sometimes. I just want like sausage on my pizza. I'm normally have been like an everything pizza person, but like when you start going to more pizzas and branching out to different places, like Supremes, I don't think every place can do a Supreme, in my honest opinion.
Yeah.
So like sometimes I try and minimize it a little bit more because usually less toppings tend to be better for most general pizza. But I would probably say too, like I like New York style or like thin crust if I were to pick a crust style too.
Nice. There you go. Thanks, Ragin, for the question. Appreciate you, man. All right. So I want to wrap up here, but again, we are going to do a giveaway. So I want to just show kind of what I'm giving away. And Cole, you had mentioned you have something that you'll give away as well. Let's see that. So that's Grit. That's the
this
the
is
first
Grit
grade?
Volume 1. It is from Scout Comics. If you ever need to purchase a comic from Scout Comic on their website too, you can use the code Burrito, all capitals, and get 10% off.
Boom. Nice. And that's a book I've not read either.
Volume 1, it's great. It's a little action romp. It's 3 issues, but this is a fun little trade.
Cool. Very cool. And also I'm going to be throwing in a t-shirt of mine. So anybody who gets this trivia question that I asked correctly will win a No Good Comics t-shirt. So I appreciate, again, this is just for hitting episode 50 and thanking everybody and wanting to kind of give back and appreciate everybody who's supported the show, supported everything I've been doing. And so one thing I always like to clarify, if you are out of the country, we do ask if you could pay the difference for, international shipping. We would appreciate that. But otherwise we would take care of the shipping any other way, or, to anywhere else within the country. So, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to see if anybody, here live in the chat as they try to answer it. And then in the meantime, I'm going to pass it over to you, Cole, to let us know just a little bit about where they can find you and maybe some shows that you have coming up that you want to promote as well. So here's the question, and I'll drop a starter line here, and I'm just looking for the first person that can answer this. And it's really, I'm looking for a specific answer. So it needs to be, I'm looking for the issue number, and the grade of the book that I showed off that was A-OK to me last episode. What was the issue number, and the grade of the issue that was A-OK to me from last episode? And Cole, you cannot guess. So just putting that out there.
I kind of remember, but I don't even remember. I definitely watched it. So,
so here is the starting line that I'll drop in there. So anybody that can give me all three, it's got to be in one comment, all three answers there in the live chat right now, and you are the winner. So in the meantime, we'll let some people maybe do some research or some homework if they don't know. But Cole, let us know, let the people know where they can find you and what some projects you have coming up.
Yeah, so if you go to comicburrito.com, it'll take you straight to our YouTube. We usually do 2 shows on Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We do This Week in Comics. We talk about all the comics that come out that week as many as we have read. We usually maybe throw out rankings at the end. If you're in the chat and there's a book you want to talk about, let us know and we'll make sure maybe we read it. Usually on Saturdays at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We usually have either members of the community on our show that we talk to or comic book creators. We do have Kevin, and I've got to look, Rodatilli from Freak Snow on our show tonight, and he also is in charge of the Happy Tanks imprint of Behemoth. And yeah, occasionally we'll come out with like a Monday video we call Burrito Boost, where we might talk about older books. Those are usually recorded. It's usually just one of us. We are The Comic Burrito on Instagram and Twitter. I run our Instagram, so if you have any questions for me, you can find me there. And yeah, that's kind of what we do. We'll occasionally put out shorts, but I don't think that anyone really cares about shorts, so we won't even talk about what those are.
I love it, man. I love it. A lot going on, and I very cool. I love chiming into you guys breaking down the books each and every week, and I really enjoy that kind of content. So I appreciate everything that you all are doing. I wanted to say real quick, I do see an answer that is super close, but it is not exactly correct. Just that it is not full. All I'll say is that it's not fully correct, but I see a lot of people just bowing out. Comic Journey saying Madballs issue number 1 at a 9.9. I unfortunately that's not the correct answer. But we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there real quick as I kind of close out here. I'll drop a hint. I did post it recently, so there's a hint over on Instagram.
And thanks for having me on, especially on episode 50. It was funny. I was watching the last one, and it was 49. And I was like, oh my gosh, am I the 50th guest? Am I gonna have to big feet to fill? But hey, you're halfway to 100, and
yeah, man,
get there.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you just taking some time to hang out with me here. Like I said, one of the reasons I love this show the most is the fact that I get to hang out with cool individuals, get to know them in a way that if and when I ever do run into you at a Comic-Con or a local comic shop, that I can actually hang out and talk with you and it not be awkward or silent, maybe we'll grab some whiskey together or something like that. You know what I mean? So I appreciate you coming on, and love everything that you're doing. So I keep it up for sure. Let's see. I saw. First I saw Johnny Funko in the house. So what's going on, Johnny? Good to see you. Thanks so much for stopping by. Bobby here. I think I missed you earlier. So good to see you, Bobby. Let me see. So this technically is the correct answer here. As Ragin had 1 digit off, but he does say give it to Ragin. So Alan, that is really, really kind of you. Yes, it is. And I have it here. If you missed it, this is from Off-White Tim. Again, shout out to Off-White Tim. He was in my episode last week. He had AOK'd this book to me. It's a 7.0 Thor 154. Really, really nice of him to do. So again, Tim, if you're watching still or catching the replay, thank you so much, my brother. I'm going to give it to, as Alan is saying here, I'm going to pass it over to Ragin Cajun Comics. So George, there you go, brother. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. DM me later and we'll set that up. Yeah, and
throw in a koozie or two too, and some stickers or something.
There you go. Sweet. Good stuff. So Ragin, make sure you are also following Comic Burrito and reach out to Cole on their Instagram channel. He'll be the one to communicate with you there. So follow up with him and he'll ship that stuff out to you. Cole, man, thank you so much for doing that again.
No problem. And congratulations on 50 issues, right?
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. So there you go, everybody who had guessed. Thanks so much for giving it a shot there. Off-White Tim's still here. It's funny, I thought about it. Tim could have technically just stolen it, and just thrown it in there.
Well, I'm glad you kind of showed the back, because I was like, man, I swear it was a Batman book, but everyone's saying Thor, but I forgot there was the loose Batman book that was included. So yes, I wasn't completely wrong.
Right. And again, Alan, thank you so much, man, for doing that. That's really kind of you, throwing it over to Ragin. Appreciate you for doing that, my friend. Mad Balls was not right, unfortunately. You were close. Issue 1, it did have a 1 in the issue number, so to that regard, it was a close guess. All right, so we're gonna wrap it up here. We're a little over an hour. So again, thank you all so much for hanging out. If you're watching the replay right now, you watching, thank you so much for taking the time to do so. video, make sure you smash that like button on your way out and subscribe to Cole. Go check out Comic Burrito. Love the shows that you guys are putting out there. So you all in the chat, if you're watching later, make sure you're subbed up and reach out to Cole if you want to just talk comics, as he said. So very cool. And again, thank you, Cole, so much for taking the time to be here. All right, we're gonna wrap this up. So I'll be back again next Saturday, as usual timing. I'll actually have my next guest is going to be Read Across the Stars. So really excited for that, talking with Victoria, as she will be my guest. So until next time, we will talk to you guys later.